Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to try a little bit of a different format here. I'm going to do my AAR live with the animals and everything. I find the streaming is really fun. I like interacting with my community, with my viewers, so I think that this might help everybody get more engaged. And then also, I just have to do less editing, which is nice, because some of these videos take me 3 hours to record and then 6 or 8 hours to edit. And this way, 2 birds, 1 stone. That said, I want to start by going through my list one more time. I made a video specifically about my list, if you want to check that out, but I'm just going to run through it real quick. So this was my first time running the AOR at any kind of tournament. I only had like 2 games with a different list before. So I don't have a lot of experience with the AOR, but one thing that's really cool about RTT is it gives you that opportunity to just go play 3 games very quickly and test some stuff out. So I have 2,000 points of Deathwatch here. I have a captain with Jump Pack, Mastercrafted, Xenophase Blade, and the Inferno Pistol. Primaris Chaplain on bike. He's got all the fixing wise order, optimized priority, recitation of focus, canonical of hate, and then he also has the Beacon Angelus, which I usually forget in these videos for some reason, but there you go. Primaris Librarian, I gave him the Chief Librarian upgrade. I don't know if I'll keep this, but I'll get into that later. He has Premorphic Resonance, Fortified with Contempt, and Mantle of Shadow. Then I have 5 kill teams, 1 Fortis, 2 Proteus, 1 Indominator, and 1 Spectrus. Hi, Michelle. What's going on? So, you know the Fortis kill team, Ass Blasters. We all love them. They are fantastic. They are an awesome deep strike threat at all times. The Indominator kill team, we're seeing these a lot right now in this Army of Renown because of Specialism, Extremis, of course. You have just a shitload of shots, like 58 shots or something, going into anything you need, automatically wounding on all hits. It's insane. Then I have 2 melee Proteus kill teams that are exactly the same. We got a Black Shield with Lightning Claw, Thunderhammer. We have 2 Terminators, both with Chain Fists. Chain Fists, I think, are really good because of the increased AP now with the Armor of Contempt changes. They're -5 in the Assault Doctrine with armor penetration, which is super great. Then we have Lightning Claws, Chain Swords, and there are 2 heavy Thunderhammers as well in each list. And then the Spectrus kill team is a little bit of cool tech that I thought that I'd try out. That's 5 Eliminators and then 5 Infiltrators. One of those has the Helix Gauntlet. I always combat squatted these so that 4 of the Eliminators was in with the Infiltrator that had the Helix Gauntlet, and the amount of firepower they can tank is just absolutely bonkers. Like I said, I'm going to try a new format here. So we'll go on over and look at my sweet slideshow. So I came in 5th. There were 18 players there. The tournament was hosted by Ordo Fanaticus. These are the last couple RTTs I have been to have been hosted by them. Great group of guys. I came in 5th out of 18 players, like I just said. It was 2 weeks ago. Some of this stuff is fuzzy in my head. I did make a lot of notes. I have 14 pages of notes here. I'm going to try to go through them faster than just reading 14 pages. We used player place, terrain, 3-round event. 2 missions were from the Strike Force portion of the GT 2022 mission pack, and one of them was actually an incursion mission that we had to like blow up and change and make it fit. But it was nice because it was just a new mission to try out. So round 1, I got, you know, as you do when you're looking at a tournament, you open the BCP app and you start scrolling through everybody's lists, and you start looking at lists, you're like, all right, I think I'd have a good time into this list, but I think I'd have a bad time into this list, and I immediately drew Tyranids. I was not looking forward to playing the new Nids, but, you know, Travis, my opponent, was a super chill guy. He hadn't played any 9th, I think, or he played like 1 game of 9th ever. since the edition came out, and this was his first game playing the new NIDS at all. The mission was Death and Zeal. My secondaries, I picked Stranglehold, Suffer Not the Alien, and Investigate Signal. He picked Psychic Interrogation, Engage on All Fronts, and Assassinate. I won the first turn roll off. I put my Ass Blaster squad into Deep Strike. He put his Winged Hive Tyrant into Deep Strike. I picked Heavy Support Lord of War as my chapter rerolls. I should have probably picked HQs, but we can get into that later. His list was a Turvagon, Winged Hive Tyrant on foot, Maliceptor, a Trigon Prime, Exocrine, 1x3 Zoanthropes, 2x30 man blobs of Gaunts, and then one of those was ranged and one was all melee. Tony, I would also engage you on all fronts, brother. So like I said, round one was on Death and Zeal. I'm going to use this map that's up on the screen right now to kind of guide you through what happened. You can see that we have these crazy deployment zones with this big circle in the middle. We were using player place terrain on every table. There was a large obscuring ruin right in the middle, and then after that we could deploy our terrain as we wanted them. So I castled up super hard. I knew he had some long range shooting with the Exocrine, and I knew that he was going to come at me if he won the first turn roll off. So I was down here in this red zone, and then I forward deployed one of my Spectrus kill teams over here on this no man's land objective here. Hello, Jason. Thank you for joining me. And then he deployed almost everything effectively on the line here. So he had huge group of monsters back in here, and the only thing that he had really was he had one large obscuring ruin back here in the corner, and that's where he hid his Zoanthropes, and that's where this objective was. So I won the first turn roll off. You can see how he deployed here in this photo. He's got so much stuff right on the line there. He's got his Maliceptor, he's got his Trigon Prime, his Hive Tyrant on foot. That's the Turvagon there, and then just blankets of Gaunts everywhere. So I won the first turn roll off. I went into Tactical Doctrine. I should have done Assault and used the Priority Doctrine adoption strat to put my Indomitor kill team into Tactical, but I didn't. I just picked Tactical for everybody, and then I went White Scars. So I had noticed, again, you can see on this photo, he put his Hive Tyrant on foot, like right there on the deployment zone line, and I knew with the Chaplain on bike, with the Beacon Angelus, I knew I had a super high chance of actually being able to get my melee team in on them on turn one. So that's exactly what I did. That was my goal. So I went ahead, I advanced the Indomitor kill team up right behind, or I advanced them to the middle. I used optimized priority to allow them to do the intercept or investigate signal action and still shoot. Because I'm White Scars, you can advance and shoot without the penalty to assault weapons. And then in the movement phase, I drew a melee team to my Chaplain. He had gotten off all of his litanies, so there's +1 to hit on the Indomitor team, and then also the melee team now had a +2 inches to their charge, and then a 6-inch pile in and consolidate, making this a 7-inch charge, which I think with a reroll is something like 80% or 85% that you're gonna actually make that roll. So that's exactly what I did. I did very little else this turn. My other melee team moved up this side of the board here, this west side, and moved north towards this objective. I think they only made it to about here, though. And my Hellblasters were still in Deep Strike. There was nothing for my Eliminators to shoot, which kind of sucked, but, you know, it is what it is. Moved up my in Dominator team. They shot a whole lot. I blew away some Gaunts, most of a Gaunt squad, and I didn't use Specialism Extremists yet, and I didn't use Brotherhood of Veterans or anything, but I got one of the 10-man Gaunt squads down to, no, it was a 30-man, and I got it down to like 3, I think, after all of the plinking from every unit and the Indominator kill team. So that was really good. Unfortunately, I know I needed to kill it, and the reason is because the Turvagon, the Turvagon can bring back 2d6? I think it's 2d6 Gaunts every turn. It might be 2d3. Anyway, more free Gaunts is not what I wanted. So unfortunately, I didn't quite have the oomph to kill that whole big brick of Gaunts. But I got off my charge. My whole melee team goes in. I put everything into that Hive Tyrant. It goes down. He heroically intervenes with his Trigon Prime. The big snake looking thing. This guy right here. I think that's a Trigon Prime. Anyway, and I just absolutely massacre and obliterate this Hive Tyrant. And I did not realize how good that was going to be, because I didn't realize that he had built his list to... This guy was there effectively just to do Psychic Interrogation for every single matchup. And so he took Psychic Interrogation, and then I completely obliterated him, his one character that was going to do that right off the bat. So I didn't realize it, but that was a 15-point swing in a way, in which he now needs to decide to either not cast powers he wants to cast with his other units to get points, or cast the powers that he needs to cast to make his units more efficient. That was good. My Libby got off all their powers. It went on to the melee kill team, so they're going in there. They're hitting on 2s, 3s with the hammers. They went absolutely bonkers. I probably could have split fire and also really, really hurt the Trigon Prime, but I haven't piloted this list very much, so I wasn't really sure of its killing potential, so I didn't do that. On his turn, he goes ahead and he brings back a whole bunch of those Gaunts, like I said. He then also the Turvagon is able to just create a 10-man unit of Gaunts once per game for free. They don't cost extra points or anything, so he did that, and they ran up and they go and they snuggled up with the Neurothropes. I think he was using them to move block my combat team. Everything else just kind of moved up. He had that huge group of 30-man, or that huge 30-man melee Gaunt squad that was over here. He had them move south into my, or very near to my Spectre's kill team. He used the psychic power that lets them charge after advancing, so they got up to like within 4 inches of the Spectre's team, and they, you know, surprise, surprise, the Spectre's team did not survive that charge. The Exocrine stepped out to shoot. Otherwise, everything just kind of inched forward. Exocrine shoots into my Indominator team. I transhumaned them, and I had a sergeant in there that had the Castellan of the Black Watch upgrade, so that he had an extra wound and an extra armor save. He is the only thing in the Indominator kill team from all of that shooting from the Exocrine. He's the only one that manages to die for somehow. Like, I spiked hot on my saves, and then they all lived. Fleshborer Gaunts that are up north here, they start to move to the west. They unload into my Indomitor kill team as well, and I think I lost another heavy intercessor or something like that. Otherwise, my Indomitor kill team is still very strong. He moves up with the Maleceptor. He charges into the melee team. It swung first, cleaved down a couple of my models. Oh, I should actually mention, his psychic phase was bonkers, of course, because the Maleceptor can do a psychic action, can cast 2, I believe, and then anytime it casts over 7, it does 3 mortal wounds immediately to the nearest unit within 12 inches. So I am so glad I gave that melee team the 5-up Feel No Pain, because it came in so clutch. I still lost a model or 2. The Zoanthropes also have that bonus, and they get +3 to cast because they get +1 for every Zoanthrope in the unit. So they went insane and blasted my melee team with a ton of mortal wounds. And the only reason that team was able to stick around for another whole turn is because they had that 5-up from Fortified with a Contempt. So his Maleceptor charges in, goes apeshit, kills another few models. I'm down to like 6 models left in that squad now. He swings and no, he had heroically intervened earlier, so the Trigon Prime doesn't swing. But he even charged in, I'm pretty sure, with the Turvagon and everything. And it's just now my melee kill team is engaged with this giant group of huge monsters that are all T7 and T8. But, you know, it was thematic and super cool. So at the end of his turn, he actually manages, so I swing back, I swing into the Maleceptor, he swings with everything else. He manages to wipe out the entire Proteus melee kill team. And a lot of that was because they soaked something like 14 mortal wounds or something between a smite and all these bonus 3 damage mortal wounds from rolling hot. And then the Zoanthropes get +3 to cast, so on the die, they only need a 4 to hit you with these extra mortal wounds. It was bonkers. And then, like I said earlier, the 30-man melee Gaunt team charges into my 5 Phobos guys, and they die horrifically. So now I have experienced the joy that is the new Nid psychic phase. And so on the top of turn or round 2, I go ahead and I go Black Templar because I need 5-up Feel No Pains on everybody. I also switched to the Assault Doctrine, which I should have been in originally anyway. Like I said earlier, that was one of the mistakes that I made. My other melee kill team has moved up. There was a ruin over here on the northwest corner, and they had moved up to like just behind the wall here. I dropped down the Hellblaster team right onto those ruins, actually, so they're now holding that objective. They're also protected. He didn't know this. I had told him, but he didn't, like, you know, listening to a Deathwatch list is, there's too much. Anyway, so I had a black shield in that melee team. So if he dropped something out of Deep Strike and tried to charge my Hellblasters, I was going to heroically intervene with my melee team. I move up the Indomitor kill team again. The Chaplain is still there, so I use Optimize Priority to let them shoot and still do an action again. So they do investigate signal a second time. I was having to play really cheeky with my Librarian because, you know, Nids have the -1 to cast if you're within 18 inches. So my Librarian basically ran around in the middle the whole game, taking steps up and back and up and back, trying to make sure that he was within range of buffing my units, but not in range of whatever of the warp that makes it harder to cast when you're near Nids. So this is where I finally get to use Specialism Extremis, and this will go into another mistake that I made. And that mistake is just that I don't know how much an Indomitor kill team can kill. And spoiler alert, it's a lot. So I have that 30-man Gaunt team that has now obliterated my Spectrus kill team that I had put up there to hold it. They're holding this objective now. I turn, I use Specialism Extremis, and I only target those 30 Gaunts. I wasn't even done rolling all the damage from the aggressors because they're hitting on 2s, they're automatically wounding. They're at -1 AP in tactical for most of that shooting. So he's only getting 6 ups or something. I think it was 6 ups. So I obliterate that 30-man Gaunt squad in with 4 aggressors. It was insane. Everything else, all their firepower was effectively wasted. I could have targeted other things, but I did not realize the killing potential of the Indomitor kill team fully buffed with Specialism Extremis. It's crazy. So he just looks at me like, well, that's nuts. And I'm like, yeah, well, but now, you know, I relieved a lot of the pressure that was on that front over there, and that made me very happy. So I took out his, not only did that relieve the pressure from that unit being there, it also, he had engage on all fronts, and I was trapping him back in his deployment zone. So he hadn't moved any units out, except I think maybe a 10-man Gaunt squad had moved into this quarter. So he's only getting 2, and by killing off that 30-man Gaunt squad down in the bottom right, I make it so he doesn't get 3. So I'm already trying to like keep him penned in. My snipers actually, because hilariously enough, eliminators get a blast profile on their guns, and the only thing I could see with them was Gaunts, because remember, so this photo kind of gives you a good idea. They can see physically everything in that deployment zone, but because that big ruin right there in the middle is obscuring, they can't actually see anything that they wanted to shoot at. So the only thing they could really shoot at were Gaunts. So they go ahead and they annihilate like a 10-man. No, that's right. They killed the remaining. There were like 3 left in a Gaunt squad after my last shooting phase. He brings back a few. They kill off that whole team. The Ass Blaster team fires into the other big 30-man unit and kills the majority of them, because that's what Ass Blasters do. I didn't have to overcharge, obviously. They have huge AP values, so they didn't even get a save. They just died. So a huge swath of Gaunts go down to the Ass Blasters. And then I made a mistake here. I charged with my Indomitor team. So that should immediately make it so that I fail investigate signal. I forgot that was even a thing, so I made a mistake there as well. My Indomitor kill team, now they have all the buffs. They have Premorphic Resonance, they have Fortified with Contempt, and they go ahead and charge in. I also charge in with my Chaplain, and I moved up my Captain, who I was really excited to get him into combat, because I don't really play punchy characters very often, except Kaldor Drago, who's punchy by definition, not the way that you build him. So I built this guy to be super punchy. He's got -5, it's Assault Doctrine, you can't take invuls against it, and it's 2 damage of swing, so I'm stoked to get him into combat. He and the Chaplain charge the Trigon Prime, and then he whiffs. The Captain whiffed everything. He's only Strength 5, going into his Toughness 7 HQ. So he's only wounding on 5s. I think I hit with every attack, but then I didn't wound with anything. So I don't do any damage. The chaplain also bounces, or maybe got through 2 wounds or something. And my Indomitor kill team, which just charged and lost me 3 points effectively, although I didn't realize it until I was doing this write-up. They charge and also bounce, because the Maleceptor is toughness 8. I have strength 8 power fists on the aggressors, and that's about it. I think I chipped 1 or 2 damage off of the Maleceptor, and it was awful. It was the worst charge phase I've ever had. He swings back, kills all but 2 of my heavy interceptors. All my characters live somehow. I think my captain got down to 1 wound or something. So his turn. So my snipers they're letting me down, or at least I feel like they are. But here's where they start to shine, because there's a dude with a Helix Gauntlet in there that's also giving everyone in that unit the 12 up infiltrator bubble. So he goes to drop down his winged Hive Tyrant, and he can't. He can't drop it in my backfield, which is where he wanted to. Instead, he ends up having to drop it up here in the northwest near my Hellblaster team. Actually, I have a photo. So this is what his movement phase looks like after his turn. So he moves up that Gaunt squad that after bringing some units back. He's now in dense. He is he's getting engaged here. He moved this warrior squad down to get engaged as well. You can see my captain back here and my chaplain. Here's the Indomitor team that rushed in and got not annihilated, but effectively bounced. As soon as he brings down that winged Hive Tyrant, I spend 2 CP, I Ox-Spec scan him with the Hellblasters. I have to overcharge because I need to go into toughness 7. The Ass Blasters are only strength 6 to start. They're strength 7 if you overcharge. So I do that. And I think that I did... I don't know. I was re-rolling. I was hitting on 4s with no re-rolls at all. I overcharge. I don't lose a single Hell Blaster, which is an absolute miracle. And I don't know. Just wounding on 4s isn't that great. So I did a couple of wounds. I think I just bracketed him is what got through. So he goes through with his giant, psychic phase again, and he proceeds to just kill my Indomitor team. Every single time a power goes off, and he does 3 mortal wounds in addition, I'm just so glad that I had the Feel No Pain from going into Black Templars. That it's the only thing that kept me alive again, and having this team stick around, because if they hadn't had that Feel No Pain to mortal wounds, or the Feel No Pain in general from Fortified with Contempt, then that team would have been wiped out on the clapback in the last turn. I cannot stress to you enough how many mortal wounds this army puts out, and this isn't even an army that is at all competitive. This Travis loves Gaunts. He was telling me this during the play, so he was trying to shove as many Hormagaunts and Termagaunts into this list as possible, and still make a competitive list. I see competitive lists out there right now that have 2 Maleceptors, and that just seems untenable. But anyway, he proceeds to blow away most of my Indomitor kill team. And I think I punch back. I only do 4 wounds or something, leaving the Maleceptor in middle bracket. But luckily, thanks to the chaplain being right there, well, I guess they're all, yeah, then that team still had leadership 9, and I didn't fail my morale. Turn 3, I stay in Assault Doctrine. I use Inheritors of the Primarch to stay as Black Templar. And my Chaplain gets the reroll all hits in combat aura off, but he doesn't get off the +1 to hit, or he doesn't get off the charge. Yeah. My Librarian, he scoots up and he's able to cast Fortified with Contempt and Premorphic Resonance onto this melee kill team, which had moved up. So I forgot. So his turn 2, he tries to charge with the Winged Hive Tyrant into my Hellblasters, and he failed the charge, and he failed the reroll. So nothing really happened there. So on my turn, I moved these guys up here. I moved my Librarian this way so that he was able to give them every buff, because I know the Indomitor kill team's going to just die anyway. So we're going to buff this guy, or these guys, to hell and back. I got so close, I only needed like a 3-inch charge, and I'm in Black Templar Chapter tactic, so I can re-roll them for free without having to spend CP. My shooting this round sucks. My Eliminators and Hellblasters fire into this unit of Gaunts again, and I actually do wipe them out, but every other bit of shooting on the board really doesn't do a whole lot. The Indomitor team can't shoot, or I guess the heavy intercessors have pistols, but I always forget that. My captain goes to fire his Inferno pistol and misses. So my captain so far has managed to do nothing this entire game except give reroll 1s to hit, which isn't nothing, I guess, but and that's it. I swing into his, or he swings back into me first. He kills another few of my models. I swing back into that Maleceptor again, and I think I ended up getting it down to like 4 wounds or something. He has no board control now. He has a bunch of big monsters that I've tar pitted effectively. He swings into and kills the captain, and the Chaplain just sticks there holding off the Trigon Prime. And then, so now we're, it's the bottom of turn round 3, and we're told like, hey, you've got like 15 minutes. So I don't like to leave my opponent hanging without playing their round, because that's not cool. So mostly we talked through his turn 3, but the things that we really needed to roll out, we rolled out. So he blows away my Indomitor kill team in Psychic. They don't last at all. That's about all they can do. He moves back with the Trigon Prime. I think his Exocrine, or he falls back with the Trigon Prime. His Exocrine then kills my Chaplain. And that was about it. There's nothing for him to charge or fight at that point. So we call it there. We score it up. I received 69 points. Nice, which should really be 66 because I messed up with that charge on the Investigate Signal. And then he got 31. I'd locked down so much of the board with my OBSEC that I didn't really give him an opportunity to move out very much. So at the end of the game, he had some big monsters left, and the warriors, and that was it. The Winged Hive Tyrant died in combat to my melee team on turn 3. There was like, they had no hope. He got absolutely pummeled. So yeah, 69 to 31. I always like to do this where I talk about like lessons learned, right? So the first thing is, I really did not know how much an Indomitor kill team fully buffed up can kill. It's so crazy. And this comes up again in a later game at the same RTT. I took in I took Investigate Signal as one of my secondaries because I forgot Oath of Moment existed. I think I just have Codex Overload because I need 4 books to play the Deathwatch Army of Renown, and I never really open my Space Marine Codex ever because I already know all those data sheets and I really hardly ever have to open them. So I just totally forgot Oath of Moment existed. But I never fell back. I held the middle the whole time. I think I would have scored 9 or 10 on intercept signal, where I only scored 6 on it this game with investigate signal. So that wasn't a great choice. The mortal wound output, you already heard me bitch about it a little bit with the neurothropes or the zone thropes. I don't remember which ones that they were, and the maleceptor, it was just nuts. And I'm one of the armies that can actually deal with that. Like, we have a feel no pain psychic power, and then we can go into chapter tactics like Black Templar and just have a 5-up to mortal wounds. And even so, I probably lost more to his psychic than to any of his shooting or any of his fighting. The psychic phase was nuts. The eliminators did very little except kill Gaunts, and it really is because of that giant ruin in the middle of the board. And I mean, they stopped the Wing Hive Tyrant from coming in my backfield, which was nice, but otherwise they didn't do a whole lot. This army is actually very bad for eliminators because your strength 5 shooting going into like toughness 7 and 8 monsters. That's all of their characters. So it's real hard to get value back from them. My Ass Blasters scared the living crap out of my opponent. And they were really reliable. I don't know why. I think Travis dropped it down next to the Hellblasters to try to take on that objective. I don't know if he didn't realize everything that I had, every model I had on that objective was OBSEC. I know he can turn his guys into OBSEC, but I had 20 bodies on that objective. So even if he ran in there with 14 wounds left, killed a few of my models, and then popped OBSEC for the amount of wounds he has remaining, after the slapback and stuff, there's no way he would have actually held on to that. Especially after my melee team theoretically would have heroically intervened and then just probably killed it, honestly. Killing the Hive Tyrant on foot on the first turn, like right out the gate, I cannot stress, he was telling me this as we were picking up our stuff, but I cannot stress how important that ended up being, because again, he effectively just wasn't able to cast Psychic Interrogation the whole game because his unit that he put in the army to do exactly that died in the first turn. So he scored a big fat 0 on Psychic Interrogation. And then he only managed to kill my Warlord. So I guess my Chaplain didn't die from the Exocrine because I only see 4 points here for Assassinate. And that's it. That was round 1 of the tournament into NIDS. So I walked away with a win. Not going to complain about a win on my first match, especially against an army that I hadn't played against before, with an army I have barely played before. And we all know right now NIDS are a super tough top meta choice where I think Deathwatch is very good. I think we're A tier, but going into an S tier army, you got to play extra KG. Armor of Contempt is amazing. I loved it very much because suddenly all the shooting and all the melee was a little less scary. So my very expensive units get to stick around longer, which is great. So round 2 was against my buddy Levi. He will probably pop into the stream later knowing him. I play him frequently in my garage. I have played this list of his probably 8 or 9 times now with both my Deathwatch and my Grey Knights. So he is a Chaos player. He absolutely loves his Greater Brass Scorpion. There were actually 2 at this event from 2 different people, obviously. So he had a Greater Brass Scorpion, 2 Disco Lords, 2 Mauler Fiends, a Helldrake, a unit of Obliterators, and a whole bunch of chaff cultists, and I think he had 1 squad of Chaos Space Marines. It was abandoned sanctuaries. His secondaries were No Prisoner, Retrieve Nockmund, and Engage on all fronts. Mine were Investigate Signal, Stranglehold, and Grind them down. He won turn 1. I did the same thing I did in my last game. I put my Ass Blasters into Deep Strike. He put his Obliterators into Deep Strike and 2 units of Cultists into Strategic Reserves. I chose Xenos, Hunters, Heavy Support, Lord of War, because again, I know I need to kill that Greater Brass Scorpion. Like, this army's linchpin is that 525 point model, and you either need to ignore it and kill everything else, or you need to kill it and ignore everything else. Like, that's how you beat this list. So it was abandoned sanctuaries. Here you go. Here it's 5 objectives, 1 in the middle. This is another one where I took Investigate Signal. I should have taken Oath of Moment. I didn't. I again forgot it existed. What's up, Sindri? How you doing, man? So we do our terrain. Again, we had a required giant obscuring ruin in the middle. We could not move that one. Everything else we were able to place. I made a big mistake here as well. I was even talking to Levi when we were putting up the terrain. I did not have a lot of big ruins. He had an enormous one back here. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if this angle is good enough, but this ruin was large enough that probably 75% of my army could have hidden behind it. But instead I had to put them behind these, and here's what deployment ended up actually looking like. So you can see how, even though I'm behind obscuring, my models, I have so many and they're so big that I'm having to push them very close together, and I'm having to I can't hide, basically. I can't. And I know if I go second, I'm gonna have a real bad time, because that Greater Brass Scorpion is going to go Nova. I don't know if you guys have played Chaos Space Marines a lot. They never had problems with killing things. They had problems staying alive, and AOC has made it so that they actually don't have a problem staying alive very much anymore. They're not as durable as some, but you know, they're much tankier than they used to be. And if you're asking yourself, does the Greater Brass Scorpion get AOC? It absolutely does, because it has the Heretic Astartes keyword. So, yay. Anyway, it looks like Sindri is building a knight, and so's Ocho. Thanks for swinging by, guys. And don't forget, anybody out there who's watching, if you have questions about anything, throw it in here. I'm doing this live because I like interacting with y'all. So if you have questions, please let me know. And then if you are a veteran player, maybe you can see here a big deployment mistake I also made. And that deployment mistake is my chaplain on bike is right here, and my Indomitor team is right here, and the litanies go off in the command phase, so he doesn't get to move first. So that's gonna come back to haunt me. As a guard player, AOC is broken. Yeah, you're gonna get your codex and you're gonna be so amazing. all 15,000 of your points of guard, right? I think you're gonna have a great time. So he wins first turn roll off. Now, another thing is yeah, in 2035, nice. So I know the people that put on this tournament. Like, I'm in touch with them outside of the game fairly regularly. I have been into their back room where they have all of their terrain. I know they had lots more terrain. I could have asked for some, but this is what was on the table. So I didn't ask, and I didn't tell Colton that there was kind of a lack of terrain on that table. So that's on me. But so he goes first. He moves up the board. I think this is the end, or this isn't the end of the movement phase, but I think this is when he was done moving the Greater Brass Scorpion. So he knows he has to take out some of my kill teams here. I went Raven Guard for my chapter tactic, hoping that the -1 to be hit for being in cover would really help me out. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. The amount of shooting that the Greater Brass Scorpion has, and especially when you throw on something like, there's a stratagem called Demon Forge where he gets to reroll all hits and all wounds. I think it's 1 CP, it might be 2. Anyway, it's the crutch of the Greater Brass Scorpion. That goes on the Greater Brass Scorpion every single round, because it is the only way that he can make that thing super reliable. Yes, exactly. So the Greater Brass Scorpion has a lot of flamer shots. It also has effectively a demolisher cannon on the back of it, or on the here. So here's a demolisher cannon. And then it also has a like heavy 12 Gatling cannon on the tail. So it has 2 big ass flamers, the demolisher cannon, and then a 12 shot like high strength thing. Hi, Rachel. That's my wife in the comments right now. I am hot. Thanks for letting me know. You should tell my wife that I'm hot. Aren't you guys supposed to be out of town having a girls' night? Go away. Let me nerd out. Go get drunk. All right, so he moves up. The way that tail works is so the model is enormous, okay? This gives you a little bit of a perspective. That is a heavy interceptor or intercessor and a aggressor standing near it. The aggressor, we all know, is a pretty big Space Marine model, right? And the Greater Brass Scorpion is enormous. That base that he has it on is basically a dinner plate. I'm not even kidding. It's like this big around. So it is very, very tall. The tip of that tail it's probably 10 or 11 inches tall. The thing is enormous. So he can draw a line from the tip of that tail to basically every one of my kill teams in this shot. So he shoots at the melee team to the south down here, and he kills a whole bunch of stuff. I really wish that I had thought about it, but with the changes to the Salamander chapter tactic, where you can now no longer reroll wounds against them, that would have been better than Raven Guard. So he was -1 to hit. It didn't matter, he was rerolling, but being able to turn off his wound rerolls, I think would have helped me a lot. I also, because I went second, I don't have up any of my buffs, I don't have up any of my psychic powers, so I was relying on Raven Guard to keep me safe. Over here, he moved up his Helldrake to right here. We jokingly call it a distraction Helldrake because that's how he uses it. He like flings it right up at you turn 1, and he tries to do a little chip damage with some shooting, and then he charges you and he just tries to tar pit you. I figured he was going to do that again because I play him and this list pretty regularly. So that's what he does. The Mauler Fiends and the Disco Lords kind of move up to this area of the board. There's the other Disco Lord hiding right there. The Helldrake comes in here, and usually that thing does effectively nothing when it shoots. Like, it may chip a wound or two. Instead, what it did is it went Nova, and it killed 2 of my Terminators. Even with AOC, he was well within 12 inches, so I didn't get Raven Guard. And he kills both of my Terminators in this melee squad. Which I thought, like, yeah, I'll take it on the 2-ups. But then I rolled a whole lot of 1s. And, you know, how that goes. So I lost 2 Terminators there. His Greater Brass Scorpion down here kills a number of my models. I think both of the Terminators down there as well. And I think I even dropped one of the Storm Shield guys on top of it. So already I'm not feeling great. And it's after the shooting phase. He manages to kill... I don't know. He manages to kill 4 Terminators and so 40, 120, maybe 140 points of models, which isn't too bad. But I'm still feeling like it really hurts because I could have hid better if I had better terrain. But again, that's on me for not opening my mouth and saying something. So he then charges into the Eliminators in this building with the Helldrake. He did not realize I can heroically intervene with that melee team, so I did. I heroically intervened into it. He goes ham on the Infiltrators, or the Eliminators. He only manages to get 1 wound through, which is immediately absorbed by the Helix Gauntlet, so he does no damage. Now, by all rights, by every single mathematical, like, model you could possibly run, 80% of the time, 85% of the time, 90% of the time, whatever, most of the time, this melee team wipes the absolute floor with this Helldrake with tons of wounds to spare. Like, way overkills it. But they didn't. I heroically intervene, I slap back, the Helldrake lives with like 4 wounds or something, and now I'm effectively tar pitted in my deployment zone with these 2 units that I really, really need, and I am in a bad spot. So it's my turn 1 now, and here's where I was talking about that deployment mistake. Well, I wanted to give the Indomitor kill team +1 to hit from the Chaplain, but the Chaplain was now too far away, and guess what? You don't get to move before you cast your litanies. So I didn't get +1 to hit off on them for ranged. Jason is asking, have I tried 2 Indomitor kill teams, 1 with 5 Eradicators? I have not, mostly because I don't have enough heavy intercessors. I have 5 Eradicators, I don't have enough heavy intercessors. And the Indomitor kill teams are so expensive, but with the AOC changes, I think there's a lot more play for Melta. I want to try it, I just need more time, right? So now I'm like, okay, I need to shoot at this Greater Brass Scorpion. Now I know my Indomitor kill teams are only going to be hitting on 3s, but they'll get the Captain rerolls, so they'll be hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. Like, that's not too bad. So I move them out here, like basically right towards the middle, but in range of the Greater Brass Scorpion. My Libby got off all my powers. I'm pretty sure I put them all onto this melee team here, but I can't really remember. I race up the board here with my Primaris Chaplain, and I pull one of the melee kill teams to me right in the middle to lock that down. I pulled this one, actually. So I pull them up here so that I'm within a charge going around this terrain to get into him, but they're way back here. That's fine. The Indomitor kill team moves up to here. The captain moves with them. This melee team is stuck in combat. I tried to fall back with I did fall back with the eliminators. And then here's where I spend 3 CP on Specialism Extremis. I fire everything from the Indomitor team into the Greater Brass Scorpion. I did not... Pariah Nexus calls for me. Yeah, I know, I need to buy 5 more. That's how I got the 5 I have, is from Pariah Nexus. Anyway, so I'm like, this will be easy. Like, okay, I'm hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s. It's not as good, but I'll get in some hits, right? Well, like Levi pops the strat to give the Greater Brass Scorpion -1 to be hit. So now I'm hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s. I also made a big mistake where again, going back to, oh no, I'm in Tactical Doctrine, but I didn't use Priority Doctrine Adoption to put that onto one of the melee teams to put them into Assault. And then I also did not put Brotherhood of Veterans onto the Indomitor team to give them exploding 6s from bolters. So it was just like a wild like landslide of like forgotten rules and mistakes that I made. My Indomitor team fires everything and I get him down like 10 wounds or something. He's still on his top bracket. He heals for 1 every turn because Iron Warriors, I think that's an Iron Warriors thing. He also spent another CP on the Greater Brass Scorpion to give it a 6-up Feel No Pain. So every single wound that immediately went through, he gets to save on 3-ups because he's ignoring the AP from Tactical thanks to AOC, and then he gets to shrug the wounds on a 6. So I think I end up doing like 8 or 10 wounds to it or something. And that might even be me exaggerating. Yes, and Sindri is right. It's one of the downsides of Deathwatches. There is a lot of bookkeeping. It's really an army that rewards you for playing perfectly. If you do everything perfectly, then you get amazing results. And if you forget a few things, you don't. So that was awful. My shooting phase does effectively nothing. I've got so much melee still on the board. My melee teams only have, like, the bikers have guns, and the Primaris Chaplain has some guns, and there's a pistol on the captain. Otherwise, all of my shooting is in the Hellblasters, which are in Deep Strike, and then on the Indomitor team. So I managed to do nothing in my shooting phase. I charge into one of the Mauler Fiends. Oh no, that's right. I decide that I'm going to charge into the Greater Brass Scorpion because I'm like, okay, I have to kill it. I have to either horrifically wound it or kill it. If I can get my melee team in there, I can kill it. I've got a 7-inch charge now from the charge litany. But as Sindri pointed out earlier, the Greater Brass Scorpion has a ton of flamer shooting and just a ton of shooting in general. So I know he's going to Overwatch. Like, why wouldn't you? Of course he's going to. But I know I have to do like a Hail Mary play. So I rush in there. I try to charge. He overwatches. He kills like 3 or 4 models in Overwatch. And then I fail my charge, and I reroll it, and I fail it again. So my charge phase was bad. My shooting phase was bad. My movement phase was bad. My deployment phase was bad. And now I'm tar pit in this bottom corner with this damned Helldrake that has like 4 wounds. So it's my turn, so he gets to swing on me first. He goes ahead and swings, and I don't think he did anything, but now I'm like, I've got your number. I still have so many guys here, and this melee team you know, like there's no way I don't kill a 4 wound Helldrake. Well, guess what? I brought it down to 1 wound. So I'm still tar pitted over here. Start of turn 2. I go into Assault, Doctrine, and Space Wolves because I'm like, I have to make something happen with these melee teams. I have to. He comes. I'm now out in the open. He can get at me with so much now that he comes at me like a ton of bricks. He's like a spider monkey, right? From Talladega Nights. Like he just whips me. He kicks my ass. I lose every single heavy intercessor from the in-dom team, even when I'm pretty sure I had transhumaned. I might not have had any CP left, but I'm pretty sure I did. He kills every heavy intercessor, leaving me with just 4 aggressors and the Inceptor. He charges at the melee team and kills them all. Like, just the Greater Brass Scorpion just has a great time just chomping marine bodies. They all just get aced immediately. He charges with Disco Lord and a Mauler Fiend also into that team just to get some extra movement, I think. So they just get completely annihilated. And that's the end of that turn. I get to swing back first now in that bottom. I finally kill that damn Helldrake, that like hero Helldrake, which unlocks now that 350 point unit to actually go do stuff. So now it's my turn, bottom of turn 2. And I know, like, I am so far behind now. I have managed to kill not a single one of his models. I have lost the middle. He is on 3 out of the 5, or 4 of the 5 points. He has done Rand in 2 corners now, this one and this one. I know he has cultists that are going to walk on the board. He decides not to drop the obliterators this turn. In fact, he even said, like, I think I'm so far ahead, I'm going to wait 1 more turn. And I'm like, yeah, you are very far ahead. I go ahead and move that melee team out on my turn. I am heading towards the middle again. I know I have to hold it. I have Stranglehold and Investigate Signal. All of those have to happen. Like, I have to hold the middle if I want those points. So I move them that way. The Indom team, what's left of them, also moves a little bit closer towards the middle, which lets me use Optimized Priority from the Chaplain to let them do Investigate Signal and still shoot. So that's what they do. The melee kill team charges into a Mauler Fiend and picks that up. But that's effectively it. Like, that's all I do on my turn 2. I'm now locking down the middle. I got some powers off. I put my captain into range to charge at the Greater Brass Scorpion if I got the opportunity. But I know that if he charges in alone, he's just going to get croaked. So I have to wait till the next turn to bring up my last surviving melee team to try to kill this Greater Brass Scorpion. Well, at the end of it, because things went so bad, oh yeah, I dropped down my ass blasters, but because of the positioning of where I'm at, I can't really shoot at anything except the Chaos Space Marines, which are back here, I think, because they had moved up to grab this objective. The Greater Brass Scorpion is now, like, down here, making mincemeat out of guys. And I decide, like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to charge with the captain and the Indomitor kill team because it's really the only thing I have, which should again have failed Investigate Signal for me, I really should have taken Oath a moment, but I kept making the same mistake like over and over and over. He overwatches again, of course. I don't think he managed to kill a whole lot. My captain, I think, failed his charge. He doesn't even get in there, which is sad, but that's the way it goes sometimes. And after my charge phase and I bounced off of him, I was pretty much like, I actually, pretty sure I conceded at the bottom of 2 because his Disco Lords are in position to charge on the next turn. They're going to wipe out my melee team. He's still got 1 Mauler Fiend out there that can also wipe out the melee team. The Greater Brass Scorpion is still on its top bracket. He'd only lost 1 Mauler Fiend and a Helldrake and 5 Chaos Space Marines. Like, that's all he had lost. He's ready to walk on and do Rand with some cultists, and then he's gonna drop down these obliterators and they're going to obliterate whatever they need. So I conceded. Like, I had lost so much of my army by then. I think I did the math and I had lost like 1,300 points of my army, and he had lost, I don't know, a third of that, maybe 400-ish points total. So I was like, I'm out, dude. That was a good game, but you know, there were a whole lot of things that conspired. So obviously we learned the most from our losses, and this was definitely a loss, and it was a bad one. So we talked out everything. We think I would have been completely tabled at the end of his turn 3. Final score was 33-93, and I want to remind you that 10 of those points are for painted. I did not do hot. So almost a third of my score was for just painting my models. So let's get into the craziest part of this, and that is looking at my mistakes and how could I play better. And yes, sometimes the dice are cold. Yes, sometimes they're hot for your opponent. And yes, sometimes it's both. That definitely happened in this game, but you can't blame that because it's a dice game, and sometimes that shit's just gonna happen. So yes, I was running the AoR. That's why I was using Specialism Extremis. So the other thing that, so the first thing that was within my power to fix is the terrain. So I'm gonna go back again, and I'm not trying to harp on this. The terrain wasn't super hot on this table. Part of it might have been my placement. I will remind you, the player placed terrain. You can't place anything within 4 inches of each other, or 6 inches of the big pieces. This was a big piece here in the middle, and this was a big piece here. But this is big, like, vertically. The footprint of this is actually tiny. So here's the deployment again. You can see, like, I can barely fit one 10-man kill team, a 5-man kill team, and a Primaris chaplain in here. There's just, like, no room. So that was within my control. I could have immediately gone to the TO and said, hey man, you got another, like, ruin, or maybe I can trade one of these ones for a larger ruin. I know they have plenty of terrain there. So it wasn't that. Ordo is well equipped. So, and then I just didn't use my chapter tactics very well. I already kind of brought this up, but, like, I should have probably gone Salamanders for the first 2 turns, because I would have turned off Demon Forge's rerolls, which is it's the crutch of that entire Greater Brass Scorpion. The Greater Brass Scorpion without full rerolls is actually not that great, but with full rerolls is an absolute terror. So I should have gone Salamanders to turn off his wound rerolls entirely, and he would have only had rerolls to hit. That's on me 100%. Then I obviously misdeployed my chaplain. That was ass. Part of that was I was so worried about just hiding as much of that I could. I think I stuck him in the that far corner just because I was like, he'll be safe here. I wasn't thinking about where the rest of my army was and where I need my buffs to go. So that was a huge mistake. And then I don't know why, but I kept taking Investigate Signal. It's trash on this list. I took it because my last RTT, I took my Grey Knights list that was actually built to do Investigate Signal every turn. But this army list is not built that way. They don't have trash units that can just sit around doing actions all the time. Like my Grey Knights list has servitors to do that. 30 points of models, they sit in the middle, they score me 3 points every turn. Hooray. This list, I don't know why I forgot about Oath a moment until I was doing this 14-page write-up. I was like, I don't know why I took that. And I was looking at my other secondaries. What should I have it taken? So look at your secondaries, because when you're picking them in the moment, sometimes you make bad decisions, like Investigate Signal. Even when you took Optimize Priority as a Warlord trait to do actions for free, I then kept messing that up by charging with those units that were doing those actions. So it's just like compounding mistakes on top of one another, one after the other after the other. I also did terribly at picking my what's the AP? My doctrines. I did really poorly picking my doctrines. I started in tactical. I should have started in assault and given my Indomitor team tactical, and I didn't. Like, I use priority doctrine adaptation all the time. It is so good, and I just forgot about it this whole game. I don't know why. I told Levi at like the middle or the end of his turn too. I'm like, hey man, I need you to know, because again, I play with him a lot. He's a great guy. He's a friend of mine. And I'm like, hey man, I need you to know I'm on tilt right now. Like, I am not feeling great at the moment. I have made so many mistakes and the dice have been so cold that I need a moment. I gotta like breathe deep a few times. And then I didn't use Brotherhood of Veterans to put the Indomitor team into Infis, and I don't know why. Like, you do that 5 CP wombo combo with the Indomitor kill team, like, that's why you bring them. That's their whole thing, is you get to target one thing, or two things, or if you're Michael Costello, 3 things, because he's a god, and kill them all. But no, that did not happen. So I made a lot of mistakes. And by writing them down, by talking about them, by discussing them with Levi after the game, that's a huge thing, by the way, especially if a game ends really early. Like, ask your opponent what you could have done better, ask your opponent what you did well, and write stuff down. Like, I make notes all the time when I'm playing so that I can analyze my performance. And so this round, like, I'm happy that this round was really bad into a friend, because I feel like if I'd played this poorly into somebody I'd never met before, I would feel even worse. Like, that was a terrible first impression. You know what I mean? Anyway, so round 3 was versus Necrons, and this was my favorite match of the day. And it's not to say that my other opponents were awful or anything. They were very nice. Levi is a friend of mine, but Dustin was just a quintessential gentleman. He was so nice. He and I talked, about how we play to intent and stuff, and we both agreed to effectively like unlimited takesy backsies, as long as you aren't acting on information that you didn't have when you would have actually done that stuff. The guy was just a like super nice guy. So this mission was Sacred Ground, and this is a weird mission because if you're like, what the hell is Sacred Ground? It is a mission from the Incursion, so the 1,000 point army list out of the GT pack. It is not a 2,000 point mission. My second series I took, grind them down behind enemy lines, again picking weird ones for no real reason. I thought I could get some of my really fast units into his deployment zone really quickly, and then I could drop down my Hell Blasters and like lock down behind, lock that down. And I knew that because behind enemy lines scores so hard, I knew I could wait till like turn 3 to start doing that. Yeah, I think you're right. Sindri Sally's would have been a super strong play, and I just had a brain fart. I mean, the AOC rules were like 2 weeks old at that time. All of those, like that balanced data slate that came out with AOC and changed their chapter tactic, I just totally had a brain fart and forgot. And thank you for your kind words about analyzing my gameplay, because like that's the only way you can get better. This game is so complicated, that's why I love it. But you have to analyze your mistakes, and you have to be honest about them too. That's why I don't want to blame the dice too much, because dice can go hot, they can go cold. You have no control over that, so it doesn't matter. Yes, there is so much to think about with a Deathwatch. You're absolutely right. Again, it's why I love the army. It's so complicated. There's a lot of moving parts. When you can get all those parts to fall together and build your Lego car or whatever, it feels really good when you pull that off. You definitely don't just like walk forward and, you know, roll to hit and to wound and you're done with the game. Like, you got to really think about everything. Anyway, so here's the mission. It was Sacred Ground, 4 objectives. We had to, so Dustin and I, we rallied up and we talked about how, you know, a 1,000 point game is done on like a 44 by 30 map, and we needed to expand it to 44 by 60. So we just talked it out and we changed everything. Like, some of the measurements went up by 4 inches and stuff. Anyway, we easily figured it out just by talking to the other adult in the room as if they're an adult. So easy peasy. He took Rand, Engage, and Banners. Much more classic choice, much more well thought out than my behind enemy lines choice for some reason. He had a ton of HQs, so I took Assassinate. And then he had a lot of MSU, where I had a lot of big 10-mans, so grind them down is pretty easy for Deathwatch, I think, against that kind of list. I won first turn roll off. I did the same thing I did before, where I sucked my ass blasters into Deep Strike. He had flayed ones, and he had a lot of elites, so I picked elites for my reroll ones to wound. He was playing melee crons, actually, which is super cool. I've never seen a Novak list actually on the table. So he had a ton of melee. He had a bunch of those Scorpex destroyers with the huge, like, 2-handed Reaper blades. He had 3 Doomsday arcs, Locust heavy destroyers, 2 Locust lords, which I'd never even seen. He had the flayed ones, 2 Technomancers. Both of them had Resorbs, and he had 20 Immortals broken down into, I believe it was 1 10-man and 2 5-mans, but I'm not 100% sure if that was true. I asked straight up if he had Veil of Darkness, because I didn't want him to grab, you know, 3 Scorpec destroyers, bring them into my backfield with a Technomancer with a Resorb, because I knew that would be a tick that was just dug in there, and you couldn't get them out. So I was like, I do not want that. I was relying on my Spectrus teams to just completely zone him out, which I did. Sindri just asked a question about my shooting phase, and I will get to that. This is when I actually use Specialism Extremis properly, but all right, so that's his list. Here's the mission. I did not take a photo of deployment. This is, you know, the third game. I was feeling pretty tired at this point, but he did this really cool like Aztec style on the armor and stuff. I don't know if you can see, but like he's got some really interesting like Aztec styling on the guys driving the Doomsday arcs, and he's got like really colorful golden shields and things. I love this army. It's like Aztec, Mayan, I don't know. It's like a Central American style. It's nice. Anyway, so we deploy. I zone out. I've got one of my 5-man Spectrus kill. No, I've got my snipers in here, and then my other Spectrus kill team is down behind a ruin here, which I measured everything out, and with their giant 12-inch deep strike denials, the only thing he could do, like, I think he could drop one model in each of these corners, and that was about it. That 12-inch bubble, like going from 9 to 12, is incredible, and the fact that, you know, that extra 6 inches means that I can just leave a big gap here was super helpful to make me feel safe about leaving my deployment zone. He deployed everything. He has so many models. He deployed like everything in a big giant cluster. He had his Doomsday arcs kind of in the middle of his army, and I'm like, ooh, if I can pop those, maybe they'll explode. That would be cool. But he also had one unit of Scorpex destroyers, or actually, I think he had all 6 of them, like side by side here in like one big blob. So he deploys them here, and so I counter deployed with one of my melee kill teams over here, so that I can move up, and then I can use the chaplain to pull them forward and then charge. So I'm doing the same thing I was planning on doing turn 2 or round 2 against Levi, and what I did in round 1 against Travis. So yeah, so that's what happens. I go ahead, I win first turn, I move up, I move everything up. I picked, what did I pick for my chapter tactic? I picked Space Wolves, actually, turn 1. Like, I was actually thinking things through this time. So I picked Space Wolves for +1 to hit in melee if you charge, are charged, or you heroically intervene. And I went Assault Doctrine. I also remembered this time to put Priority Doctrine on the Indomitor kill team. Although I don't think I actually did that till turn 2 because they weren't even in range. Anyway, so the Indomitor team moves up this way along with the other melee team. So I'm locking down this bottom. There's another huge obscuring ruin here in the middle. This time I don't have Investigate Signal, so I don't need to hold the middle for any reason at all. Then I rush my chaplain on bike up to here. I pull that melee team to them. I have like no shooting. I think I managed, my snipers plinked a wound or 2 off of an HQ back in here. I don't even remember. They didn't do much. And then I got off my charge. That was the big thing, is I actually got off that turn 1 charge. So they go in there, I go right into those Scorpex, and I'm like, if I can kill, you know, half of his crazy, scary melee threats, then I'm in a pretty good place. One interesting thing about Novak is that their entire army gains +1 toughness if they're infantry. So they're not toughness 4. They're now, the whole army, the like immortals, everything are at least toughness 5 now. There's nothing on the board that isn't at least toughness 5. So I have a lot of like chain swords and lightning claws, and I'm like, ooh, this is not great. Anyway, I go in there, I annihilate, I charge both of the Scorpic blobs, and I kill one of them entirely, and I drop one down to 1, I think. So I kill 5 out of his 6. Super scary. Is it 5 out of 6, or did he have... I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, so he had 2 groups of 6. So I wipe in and I blow one of them just away, gone. And then he's not feeling great about that because his army, that's kind of his like army's linchpin. It'd be like if I lost my Indomitor kill team turn 1, right? Like it would be awful. It's pretty much like the core of my whole army. So his turn, he's like, oh shit, what am I supposed to do? I've got all these angry Marines that are hitting on 2s right now because of Fortified with Contempt and Space Wolves on the charge. You're swinging Thunderhammers on 2s. So he's like, the only other units nearby are that other 6-man group and then some Immortals, and that's basically it. So he knows, other than that 6-man unit, he doesn't have a lot of threat. So he shoots at the Indomitor kill team with 2 of the 3 Doomsday Arcs. I'm in cover and everything, so I'm ignoring a lot of his AP. He misses with some of the big shots, which is great. He doesn't wound with some other ones, and I think I only lost like 1 heavy intercessor or something. He does a bunch of other plinky shooting with immortals, and the Locust heavy destroyers, I know their profile is very scary. I've never seen one. I've never fought one. So when he winds up to fire at me, I'm like, this is gonna suck. And he whiffs. Like, completely. I don't even think I had to make a save because I think he either missed or didn't wound with anything. So I'm sitting here like, that turn 1 could not have gone better for me, basically, right? I've got this melee kill team exactly where I want it. I'm holding him in his back field over here, so he can't come grab this objective. He has to leave units back here to hold this. His Doomsday Arcs, I have OBSEC, and his Doomsday Arcs don't. So he makes some plays and kind of moves some units down this way to kind of take it. And then my turn 2 comes, and this was great. I move my Indom team up because he moved up 2 of those Doomsday Arcs. I'm in range with everything. I'm within 18 inches with the Interceptor and everything. So I go Nova on these things, and I actually split fire, and I split them evenly between both. And I give them, they get the +1 to hit from the chaplain. They get Brotherhood of Veterans. I give them Specialism Extremists. I'm in tactical with them. And they actually kill one of them just outright and gets the other one down to 1 wound. And going back to Dustin being a really great guy, I had called out that I was making them Imperial Fists, like in the command phase, then we do the movement phase and the psychic phase, and I shoot with them, and then he's done with all of his wounds, and there's like 2 wounds on one and 1 wound on the other, and I'm like, oh shit, man, I forgot my exploding 6s. He's like, well, I saw a whole bunch of them. What do you want to do? And I'm like, well, you want to just roll out, so if we do the math, I probably would have mathematically had 4 more hits onto each of them. Is that cool with you? He says yes. He rolls his saves. It doesn't explode, but 1 goes down, and the other is left with one wound. So we talked that all through. Because I had declared it earlier, he was like, no problem, man. And he rolled his saves and failed them and lost these units with like a big grin on his face. He was having so much fun. He was an absolute like blast to play with. So he manages to get that 6-man blob of the Locust in on my melee team the last turn, and he actually does some pretty serious damage to them, but they're still there. They're still kicking. So on my turn, now that he's lost his 2 Doomsday Arcs, he's like, I don't know what I can do to really give any threat to you. My snipers managed to pick off one of the Technomancers. Melee, I still don't have my other melee teams. Like now they're around here, but there's nothing to charge yet. He moves. Yeah, so he's stuck in his backfield. He's down a whole bunch of points already. His turn 2, I clap back into the Scorpex on my turn. He loses a few because I'm just down so many models now. And then yeah, it was just a total mess here. Like, let me try and show you what's going on. So this is an objective marker, this red thing down here. He's got his Locusts up in my grill. He's got these Locust Lords up here. This is my melee team. I think this was turn 2. This guy ends up getting shot and killed by my snipers. He's got some mortals over here trying to get him engaged. He wasn't fully over on this side, so he didn't get engaged this turn. But like, this is a total mess. Like these guys aren't even in coherency because I was pulling really weird trying to catch Storm Shield and Terminator saves, and I knew that this team was in danger anyway. So then I start to pull from the back here, and that way that's right. I did this play where I pulled from the back, and I ended up with a unit in his deployment zone, wholly within, because I had lost models until I was wholly within, and so I scored behind enemy lines on this turn because I had killed all the models that weren't in his deployment zone. But yeah, so he only gets up 1 banner. His clapback is not super great, just because he's lost so much. I lose most of this melee team. He tries to move his Locust Heavy Destroyers this direction to shoot again at my Indominator team. They whiff again or bounce. Something happened. Like, I don't remember. I didn't take any damage from them the whole turn. His only Doomsday Arc down here that can still shoot is on 1 wound, so it's hitting on like 5s or something. And of course it's Necrons, so you don't get any rerolls of like any type ever. So he's just whiffing. This back one can't see anything because of the ruin here, and then everything's in combat up here. So I think he ends up just moving it down here, and he can't quite get a line on my Indom team yet. So he just kind of like sits there. My turn 3, I get my other kill. My Indom team is now like up in here. My other melee team swinging this way, and the Indom team kills off the Locust Heavy Destroyers and the Ghost Arc that's the Doomsday Arc that's at 1 wound. The melee team gets in there, charges. There's some Immortals or something down here. They get annihilated because I'm in Assault Doctrine with a whole bunch of like thunder hammers and stuff. And oh yeah, and then his turn 2, he also brought down flayed ones down in here to try to get them into this combat. And then he fails to charge. So his flayed ones are just kind of like sitting there like, what's up? They don't do anything. After that, he's like, hey, I'll play this out, like, we'll talk this, or I'll play out my turn, but I think this is pretty much over. And we played it out again. Like, this dude, he just like Dustin was so awesome. Later on, when they're asking, the TO will ask you like, who was your favorite player for the best sportsman award, and I said absolutely Dustin, 100%. And he ended up actually winning it. He actually got the best sportsman award because he was just a fucking, like, he's a gentleman. He was awesome. I was talking to him afterward because when you run into an opponent that nice, you want to play with them more, right? And unfortunately, he lives like 2 hours away. I'm like, damn it! I guess it'll be TTS then. So let me go through my notes here real quick and see what the score was against Dustin. It was 85 versus 71. So even though it seemed like I was winning in the combat and he was losing models way faster than I did, he was able to get Rand off. He was able to get engaged very reliably with his like deep strikes and stuff. And then his banner just kind of scored him 3 points. And up in here, we kept, because of the way that models were being pulled, like at one point to gain those 4 points for behind enemy lines here, I actually pulled models off of this objective and I kind of handed it to him. So he ended up scoring pretty well on primary. I probably shouldn't have done that. I think it was too focused on trying to get behind enemy lines. It is a very respectable score. And when we were counting it all up, I was like, man, that was actually way closer than I thought. And yeah, it was, I mean, I scored maximum for primary. He scored 38. Grind was, I got grind every single turn. We didn't score turn 5 out, but I probably would have got another 3 for that. So anyway, it's a great game. He's got like beautiful models. He's an awesome guy, and thus ended my second RTT. I went 2-1, and I came in 5th out of 18. The mistakes that I made in this game mainly just has to do with behind enemy lines. I was thinking about what other secondaries I could have taken when I was doing the notes for this one. And I, like, the thing is, I took Grind Them Down, which means you can't take Oath. Because like Grind Them Down, Oath, no, Grind Them Down and Stranglehold. That's it. So I could have taken Stranglehold, but it was only a 4 objective mission, so Stranglehold was already weak. So I picked Grind Them Down because, again, he had a lot of MSU. Like, he had 5 model unit, three model units, and like 6 model units, and that's it. And I had 10 mans, except for my Spectrus teams. So I knew I could do that. Stranglehold still might have even been a better pick, just because of the way the game played out. But also, as I point out here on the screen, hindsight's 2020. So picking a good secondary after you know it's good is not really useful. That's not good feedback. But I think I would have changed up my secondaries here. I would have taken Suffer Not the Alien, where you get 1 point for killing any Xenos units, except that one interfered with Grind Them Down, I think, and I knew I could score more on Grind Them Down. So Secondaries are their own like little meta within the game, you know, and you have to pick them based on your army, based on your opponent's army, based on the mission, based on the terrain, all that stuff. So it's very difficult to consistently pick excellent secondaries. The list. So I liked the list. I need more reps with the AoR, 100%. I need them reps. Them reps are what is going to, you know, get me good at this game, if you will. Get good scrub and all that, right? Like, for instance, knowing what an Indomitor kill team that's buffed up can kill. I way overkilled 30 Gaunts in the first game, and I almost perfectly killed 2 Doomsday Arcs in the third game. I also, you know, whiffed horribly after all of the debuffs and stuff that Levi packed onto my Indom team with various stratagems. So knowing exactly what your Indom team can do is huge with this list. And to that end, my captain got into melee 2 of the 3 games, and he did exactly 0 damage with either his pistol or his melee the entire game. Like, I even went on my way game 3 when I knew I was ahead, and I kind of threw him into the melee, like maybe he'll do something. He did nothing. I know that that's a statistical anomaly, but at the same time, I can't help but wonder, can I lose him, bring a Watchmaster for the reliability of re-roll all hits instead of just re-roll ones? And then I'm thinking about getting rid of the Spectrus kill team and bringing a 3rd melee Proteus kill team instead that I can combat squad to kind of hold my backfield if I need to. And then if there's only one objective, that's at least another 5-man of OBSEC troops that can run around and do things like Rand if I want to pick that. Because I don't pick Rand as a secondary almost ever, because with Deathwatch, I don't feel like I have any shaft units to do that. So I could give the Watchmaster Castellan of the Black Vault, except that I need CP for Specialism Extremis, and honestly, his melee and range isn't that good to start with. So like giving him a mastercrafted weapon or something doesn't really do a whole lot. Like, his shooting or melee is not going to make or break a game, right? That's what I'm trying to say. But his giving reroll all hits to an Indom team that's firing into, say, something that's in dense cover, so -1 to hit. So +1 from the chaplain to bring them to 2s, but now they're back to 3s from firing into dense. And then now they're gonna reroll all hits instead of just ones. That's actually pretty big. And then if you just advance him every turn, because you don't really care that he shoots or charges or fights, so you can just advance him and he'll move an average of 9 inches every turn. That's an average, obviously. Sometimes he'll be faster, sometimes he'll be far slower, but that is what it is. And if you're Black Templar, a lot of the time, like going into Tyranids, you get to reroll advances anyway. So, not bad. And that's it. That is my journey through this latest RTT. I don't know if you guys liked the live style recap. I know I felt a little awkward trying to read my notes. I have 14 pages of notes here, and I was trying to read them. I didn't want to read them verbatim because that's boring as fuck, but let me know what you think of this. I really like it when I engage with my community, with my viewers, so I find this very fun. I think that if I edit a real video together, it probably flows better. I have less ums and less dead air, but this gives me that opportunity to talk to you guys. It would also help if I did these right away and didn't wait 2 weeks so my mind is rusty. Like, I don't I know most of what I said is accurate down to probably like 90%, but there's probably some details I completely just forgot. So thank you everybody for swinging by. I am going to go make some food real quick, and then I'll be back. I'll be live streaming again some more Grey Knights Chaos Gate in probably 15 to 20 minutes. I love that game. I played some more this morning. Yeah, it's a great game. So go ahead and tune back in 15 to 20 minutes if you would like, as I kill some of Nurgle's minions with my boys in a silver. Thank you again for swinging by, everybody, and I'll